waiau, no runga I te tikanga. He renga renga, no roto I te raukura. Ko takura kura, he mana wanui. Ki te ao kari raukura. Oh, 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 kari raukura. Oh, 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 kari raukura. Oh, 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 kari raukura. Oh, oh, kari raukura. E ria ke rā ngā raukura o tō uraua ko te witi. Hurunga I te maunga o tēnā o tātou o Taranaki. Ko taku raukurara e hoa mā, e toku manua nui ki te ao.
Taranaki taku maunga, Aotea taku waka, ko waingoro toku awa, ko ngārunga I te te iwi. No reira tapu mare kōrero, tapu ahuru mo wai e, tapu mare whakaruru au, te torokiki o te rua o te mopo, te torokiki o te rua o te mopo, tihei, anihi he. Tihei mauri ora, ki te wai au, ki te ao marama, ki a tātou katoa, kua pai mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa e kia nei ko Ngā Rangatira o Te Apōpō. E te iwi, ngōku ki te maringa nui, because this is the first time I've got to sit with these 4 prestigious emerging leaders of our maunga. Ka rea noi, tūtaki ki te toko wā I tēnei pō. No reira, ngōku ki te honore I tēnei wā. Ka tika me kara iwi te rākau kōrero ki a rātou, kia waka mōhio atu ki a koutou, ko wai rātou, no hia rātou. Me timata ka tika I konei, kia koe, Tama Ale.
Tēnā koutou katoa, no Aotearoa, no ngā reo Hinenui, taku ingoa ko Tama Ale. Koe no, e mihi ana, kia ora.
Tēnā hoki koe, ka piwa anō hoki I tēnā rākau kōrero, kia koe, Rerenoarangi, tēnā kōrero mai.
Tēnā tātou I te iwi, te motu, e wakarongo maina, he matakitaki maina, e kia nei te kōrero, mā te uruhuru karere te manu, o reira, anei a hau te tehi uruhuru o te manu, ko ngā rua ine rangi tērā, a Taranaki mā tonga, he oi anō ko ērā o ngā uruhuru, ngā kaimai, te kore maku o Taranaki, tēnei ka miki ake, kia koutou rā, e whakapakari nei taku hononga ki te kāinga hakoa kei ko nei a hau I te pane o te ika, tēnei rāwaho, no ko nei, ai nā te kore maku o te Taranaki I whakapakari ai, I tūwai tērā hono atu ki te kāinga. Nō reira, tēnā tātou ko Rerenoarangi tōku ingoa, e mihi ana.
Tēnā koe Rerenoarangi, ana kia koe e te tua Hinenui, tēnā kōrero mai ki tō iwi.
Tēnā no tātou, e te wānau, ai, me mokopuna hoki tēnei o te maunga, hiri no roto Taranaki iwi, te Ātiawa, Ngāti Mutu, Ngāti Tama me ki, ko Hinenui Wano-Bryant tōku ingoa. Tēnei ka mihi.
Tēnā rawa atu koe te tua hine, ana ka tai atu tātou kia koe I te taina te Akau, tēnā kōrero mai ki a tātou.
Kia ora mai rā, tātou I te whānau, e ngā whānau e hono mai ana ki tēnei o ngā kōrero I tēnei ahiahi pō. Ko te Akau Wharehoka tōku ingoa, he uri au tēnei no roto I a Wharehoka, tipu ana hau ki raro I ngā rekereke o tō tātou tau eke maunga Taranaki. He pānga oku anō I roto I a tauranga moana, tainui hoki, tēnā, kei te mihi.
Tēnā koe te Akau o tinoa tēnā koutou, toko wā, koutou ngā manu pīkārere o tēnā iwi, o tēnā hapu, o tēnā marae, o noro tōki mai o tō tātou nei taki wā, o Taranaki, tēnā koutou. And tāte mea nei, he uri tātou katoa no te maunga tito here, so it's biting at me right now that we've got a bit of a secret going on amongst Te Tokorima here. Actually, e te iwi, about 10 minutes ago, we tried to do this broadcast, and then kararua tauke, nā tauke te he, no reira, e waka mānawa atu ana ki a koutou. He oi anōra, kua rawa tātou ki te pai. Ko te pai e kia nei, ara ko te kohanga o te korimako o Taranaki, anō hoki ko Ngā Rangatira o Te Apōpō, ana ko koutou tira. And so, just to give you an idea of where we're going to go tonight, e wama, we have 6 wāhanga kōrero. None of our panel knows any of the pātai coming up. Kia ki te tātou I te pono. Me te ohorere anō hoki o te wakahoki ngā kōrero. No reira, ko te wāhanga tuatahi ko Taranaki reo, ko te wāhanga tuarua, Taranaki hauora, tuatoru ko te tikanga, tuawā ko te mātauranga, tuarima ko te wairua, and me te mea wakamutunga, te tuaono ko Taranaki tangata, and in Taranaki tangata, we then break that down to 5 different wāanga, Taranaki pepi, Taranaki tamariki, Taranaki rangatai, Taranaki rangatakapu, and Taranaki paake. Ka pai, and without mincing words and mucking around I te iwi, meruku tātou. Hei, I te whai au I tētahi o ngā hua, o tētahi o ngā wanaunga a Tama Ale, I runga I te pukamata e kia nei ko te out there, no reira, me tuku nei tātou ki ngā kōrero I tēnei wā tonu. Taranaki reo, pātai tuatahi. How do we encourage our wānau to take up te reo? Now, and before we start pointing fingers as to nā wai whakautu ana I tēnā pātai, we know that the reo is going through a resurgence right now, particularly in Taranaki as well. E me mihi ka tika ki te reo o Taranaki, nā rātou I āpaitia I tēnā tā o tātou. But I want to hear kōrero specifically from your lens, specifically from your experiences and upbringing on your marae within your hapu and iwi. So how do we encourage, or how do you encourage your cousins, your aunties and uncles, mum and dad, brothers and sisters, to take up te reo? Ka timata ake kia koe, te Akau.
Oh, kia ora, mo te pātai. Yeah, cool. I was listening to you talk about that pātai, and I was like, oh, I hope he comes to me first. So, kia ora for that. And only because I'll share just some of my experiences as I was growing up. And e te hua aku whanaunga e whakamāna I te kōrero I te reo Māori. I runga I te mea kāre he reo Māori tā rātou I te wā tipu ana. Ki wahi ke atu rātou tipu mai ana, engari ngā wā hono mai, whenever they came back and we got together as cousins. Kei te kōrero mātou I tō mātou kāinga, I tō mātou whare. Dad spoke to us in reo Māori, so we had reo Māori from, I guess, birth. And many of some of my whanaunga were a bit whakamā, and I think just over the years, even up to now, like it's just normalizing it to make it seem like an acceptable thing, because obviously going through reo and its resurgence, there was a time and place where speaking reo Māori, even at home, kind of, you know, like my parents were at the generation where they were, you know, strapped at school to be speaking reo Māori. So, and then also again at home, disencouraged to speak reo Māori, our language at home, to encourage them to speak Pākehā. But now, like you're saying, that's having a turnabout, and that gravitational pull back to reo Māori and tikanga Māori and our culture itself is a massive pull at the moment, which is awesome. And I think what I've seen over the years is just, it's everywhere now, and it's becoming so normalized that even some of those whanaunga that I was kind of alluding to, they now speak a lot more Māori themselves. So I think that's one aspect of being able to revitalise that reo Māori, speaking it at home. Obviously, kura kaupapa koanga, and the likes, that is also a great place. Whare wānanga, marae, go to your local marae, support your local marae. E rā mō āhuatanga. So yeah, that's just one whakaaro that I have. Kia ora.
Tēnā hoki koe, te Akau. Kei te pērā anō o ki o whakaaro Tama Ale?
Ai, te tautoko ana. Tuatahi ake E harapea tērā I te pātai pai ki te tangata nei I te mea hei aha māku te ngana, te waka pau kaha ki te waka tō mai I te hunga ki te ako I te reo. Hoi anō, e hara I te mea koe nā nahe taku aronga. Ko te aronga tuarua me rūmaki te wānau ki te reo. Hei tauira, kia kōrero au mo taku auntie tāsi. Māori ake nei te ngākau, e rangi Pākehā ake nei ngā waka haere o tana wānau. Kamutu neke atu I te kau ana tamariki. Te pōtiki he kua wātau pea te whaake I naine. Nā reire, he wahine pukumahi. Nā ka hunuku tēnei waene oku ki Taitoko, ki Levin, ki Reira noho ai. You know, e pātata atu ana ki tērā hunga te wakatipuranga ruamano. E hoa, mea rawake, kua kōrero Māori aku cousins, aku baby cousins I naine. Nā reira, koina te tino ara kia rūmakina, te tangata ki te ao Māori, kia rangona te reo, kia kitea te reo. Kamutu mā te waka tauira I te reo. Mā reira e tō mai ai te tangata ki te ako I te reo. Koe noa e tautoko ane I ngā wakaro te wanaunga te Akau ai. Kia ora.
Tēnā, oki koe mērā kōrero kua ora nei. Ka tautoko katoa te au I rā wakaro. Heoi, my opinion is of no value or matter in this panel right now. Nā kōtautoko wā ke tērā. Nō reira, ka tika, ka mihi a ki era o ngā wakautu, ana ka uri tō tātou nei waka, ki roto I te wāhanga e kia nei ko Taranaki hauora. I'm going to repeat the question that I asked the panel 3 weeks ago, because you best believe my PMs got filled with some passionate aunties and uncles up in there. And he rawe te rongo te kite I rā kōrero. Ko te pātai, he pātai mo te katoa, ka timata ake ki a koe Rerenoarangi. Should your vaccination status determine your ability to go to your marae? Ko te hua o tēnā, if I go to my marae, can nani, auntie, uncle, chair of the trust say to me, because you haven't got your vaccinations, side note I do, you can't come on to the marae? Koera te hua o tēnā. Should your vaccination status determine your ability to go to your marae? Rerenoarangi.
Ka tahi te pātai ko tērā. Ka whakautua te pātai ki te pātai. If you haven't got your vaccination, should you go to your marae? And kei ko nei ahau I te panepane o tika, so you know, he rāwaho tēnei, ai hara te mea kei te tohu atu au ki e nei o ngā wanaunga e noho tatana ki te kanga, heoi. Koina taku pātai, you know, should you go to the marae if you know that there are vulnerable ones who can't get their vaccinations because they have health problems, because they're taueki, because they're children, they still haven't got it yet. Should you still go knowing that tēnei mate e horapa ana I te motu, given all of those circumstances and understanding what happened back with the Spanish flu, should you still go to the marae? Koina taku pātai.
He rawe te pātai. Ka tika, mata pai waka irinia te rā pātai ki runga I te pukamata o te korimako pea. Heoi anō rā, ko taua pātai anō hoki, should your vaccination status determine your ability to go to your marae, Hinenui?
What a question. Kia ora, why would you even ask that? You're just trying to start a fight, aren't you? That's what you're trying to do up in here. Okay, Tauke, let's have a fight now. Yeah, I totally agree with Rere. I think you have to consider the circumstances of the time and it's contextual. It's not a blanket rule for all. It's about looking at the environment that we're in. Are there cases within our community? Have we got high-risk groups, you know, our kaumātua kuia, vulnerable people who are māwiwi? Look at the context. It's not about saying uri are not allowed to step foot onto their marae. It's about, is it right at the time? And if you're talking about connection to whenua, to whakapapa, to whānau. Those are all things that are accessible to us at all times. And tangi, especially in hui, are a time where we need to reflect on, you know, why are we there and what risks do we present? Because it's a very real thing. So it's not a straightforward question, but it's something that needs more wānanga, and it depends on what's happening at that time. And I do feel empathy for people who want to maybe be present, and we've all felt it, eh? We've all felt it over the last year and a half. So, yeah, he kaupapa me āta wānanga, tia, tonu, tātou. Kia ora.
Rawe katoa. And you might have a point there, Hinenui. My cousins like to call me Stirrer. And e hara tēnei te kaumingo haere I te kohua me ki. It's also because, yeah, that's a very broad pātai, but Tauke is very strategic when he asks his pātai, because I allow for you to go in whichever direction you want. And no reira, ko te hia i nai nei, I'd like to know what direction Te Akau would go with his makautu in regards to should your vaccination status determine your ability to go to your marae.
Kei te mute koe, Kaz.
Aroha mai. I think it's a little bit of both of Hinenui and Rere's whakaro e kōrero, and probably a bit more than what I could probably come up with at the moment, but and yeah, definitely many different layers to this. And yeah, I've heard a lot of conversations about vaccine and marae, tikanga Māori, our culture, how it's kind of had to shift, and tikanga is and that's what the word tikanga is about anyway. And for us to find what works for us and our people, keeping everyone safe, that's always, you know, at the forefront of many kaupapa. And that's just the standard thing that we do, make sure our you know, at the level of manaakitanga and tiaki, to our manuhiri and to our own whānau, that's maintained throughout whatever the kaupapa is. And I kind of think, yeah, or be that many marae may have very similar or differing whakaro or views. I think at the same time that, yeah, Rere's right. He's, you know, if you aren't vaccinated, then where do you stand as a person going on to the marae, and to keep others safe, to keep yourself safe? And sometimes I think there's tikanga that are there that we may be able to draw on. They may be of old, but they, you know, sometimes you've got to sprinkle a bit of the old with the new and mix it together and find something new, because to be honest, this is something that we've never really been, you know, struck from before, especially within the last 50 to 80 years since the last pandemic, and how we may have to change tikanga and how long may that change. But yeah, I think coming down to the crunch, yeah, Hinenui has a very good point there too. If it doesn't determine whether, well, I guess if you're allowed to go there, because we don't want to deny people from, you know, their tūranga waiwai, their marae, their whānau, but at the same time, it's about keeping people safe. So I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to you as an individual, whether you want to take that risk or not, whether you are vaccinated or not. So yeah, my 5 cents.
Tēnā koe mō tēnā rimaheneti, Te Akau. Kia koe, Tama Ale, o Tirohanga o Makaro?
O māma noi ho ku wakaro wanaunga ka ki au kao. Nei kaore anō koe kia werongia, kaore koe a hei ana ki runga ki te marae. E tama. Māma noi ho.
Koe ara, and yeah, ana I kite au I takatua hine rā, ko te mic drop tērā. Koe ara, and e mihi ana ki tēnā o ngā wakaro, ko tāku nei, you know, all good, ki te noho tahi, ki te kōrero tahi, ki te ata wānanga, like the sis Hinenui said, and I'm absolutely for that, because we're in a space and time right now where it's crucial that we do. So instead of te noho mawe e me ki, kia no ota I ai tātou, even if you've got to put a mask on, okay, whatever, but me no ota I ki te kōrero. So e me I ana ki e rā wakaro, ana, ka uri anō o ki te waka, ki te wāhanga e kia nei, Taranaki tikanga, which I think sort of tied in quite nicely with the kōrero that you just shared with us. And this is a bit of a wāhanga where we can just sit back and get a little comfy, because ko taku here, share with us some specific Taranaki tikanga, or tikanga pertaining to your marae or hapu that you are aware of, or that you saw as a child growing up, that doesn't have a strong prominence, or doesn't have a strong focus at the moment. Tēnā kōrero hia mai I etehi paki mairo, paki waitara me ki o mātua, o kau mātua hoki. So I just want to hear some kōrero from us in regards to, you know, what are some of the things that our aunties, uncles, mum, dad, nan and kokos used to do at the pā that is something you don't see so prevalent these days. And it's not to say, oh, you know, hea haai panoni, just something you know no longer or doesn't strongly exist anymore. Hei tauira, mōku, ki tētahi o kumarae, no name dropping, but ki tētahi o kumarae, he kaua me ki, kia noho ai te wahine, i te wā ka puta i te tupāpaku, I etehi wā ka panoni ai tēnā kaua ki te tikanga. Hey, and that's another deep honu kōrero on itself there. But still, it's something that's not as strong and as prevalent, or is challenged more than anything these days, in comparison to the days of our nan and koko. So, ka timata ki kia koe te Akau. So, based on your upbringing at Parihaka, some of the kōrero that your mama and papa shared with you, what are some of the things that you know no longer exist? But there's nothing wrong with it being revived right now, Miki.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I can't really think of anything at the moment that I grew up learning that was demonstrated with me growing up on the papakainga, that doesn't continue today. A lot of it does, and it kind of comes and goes. It's seasonal. Well, I guess like the tide, there are times when it's strong, and then there's some times where it's not so strong. But I've kind of always seen a lot of the tikanga anyway out at the papakainga continue throughout the years. But if I come up with anything, if I do, something does pop to mind, I'll chuck it in.
Tēnā koe me tēnā o ngā whakautu. Rere, e kōrero ai me tēnā o ngā pātai?
Kau. Nā te mea rā, kāre au tipuake i te kāinga nā. I tipuake ki Waura. Rua tekau mā tonu, rua tekau mā rima pēr. Taku pakeke, ko e te wā tuatahi I haere atu au ki Taranaki, ki tetehi marae ōku, no reira, kau. Heoi, tetehi āuatanga, ko ki te nei au, o ko tōku ake pā ko Tāwiti Nui. You know, I like I said, I was away for all my life, and the first time I went there I was like 25, 26 years old, and I was welcomed with open arms. And I just think it's important to acknowledge that, because there was so much wakama that was building up inside me as I was growing older and figuring out who I was, and that opportunity to go home, I grabbed that opportunity once I knew where that was. And I was, like I said, it was welcome with open arms, and still continue to be. And the rest of my whānau, despite living away and not being able to get there as often. So I think koia te tehi āhuatanga ki te nei au, ki te tonu nei au, I tōku ake marae o Tāwiti Nui, no reire e mihi atu ana. Kia ora.
Raue. He kōrero au mo tēnā o ngā pātai Hinenui.
Ai, te atu o kāro au, engari, e tipu ake au ki roto o tauranga moana, I roto o Ngaitirangi, I haere ki te kura kaupapa ira, I noho ki te papakainga o tamapāhore. And I don't know if it's specifically around tikanga of that area or tikanga that was practiced, but it's about the re-emergence of tikanga and the revitalisation of tikanga. Especially as a wāine Māori, I think around how we think women should act or what they should do. And in tauranga, you know, you didn't see a lot of wāine wearing maumoko. I don't believe I saw any wāine during my upbringing wearing maumoko, for example, moko kauai. And my nan that I remember was the first woman to receive it that I remember seeing. You know, I was present at her tā. And from there, I stayed living, I think I was 13, so I was still in Tauranga at that time, and just the sheer amount of wāine reclaiming maumoko from Taranaki. So I kind of saw that as something like, yeah, like we're a different type of wāine. I don't know. And I think there was this, it's not a judgment call, but there was still this prolific whakaaro, like you had to earn your maumoko, and we still hear that nowadays. Whereas wāine from where we are, had this idea like, you know, you don't have to earn wakapapa. That is your wakapapa. So there's just some, and I think it's the impact of colonization, it's the impact of patriarchy, and, you know, this is how women act. You don't karanga when you've got your waiwhero. You don't kohi kai when you've got your waiwhero. And these were like pretty strong tikanga that were embedded within us. And it's not that we disagree with it, but we start to think of, is it because we're paru? No. It's because you're in this time of like me wakatākoe, me wakangākoe. So take it easy, wāine mā. Go do your pizzo, have some time for yourself, some respite, rather than, oh, you got your mate, oh, don't come over here, don't go get kai, oh, paru. It's like, no, potent. So there's all this wakaaro around how wāine should act in tikanga, and I think we're kind of decolonizing that for ourselves, and it's just beautiful to see. And like, watch out next generation, because if this is where we're at now, you know, our tamariki mokopuna are just going to be that further step ahead. Yeah, koina tāku.
Kia ora, rawa atu mo tēnā o ngā kōrero, and what an awesome lens to bring in a rōpū full of males. Tēnā kōrero, I te mea nei plai pono, me hora nei I rā kōrero ka tika.
Yeah, let's talk about periods. Let's go.
Let's go. Me te mea nei he tikanga I roto I tēnā, no reira e mihi ana ki tēnā o ngā kōrero. Tama Ale, he kōrero anō hoki tau, mo tēnā o ngā pātai.
He nui ngā kōrero ki tau a pātai te wanaunga hoi anō. Kaore au te hia kōrero mo te mate wahine e rangi e tino tautoko ana I o kōrero e hine. Tērā mate o te wakapākehatanga mainga o tāua te Māori, te colonization ne, wa tino hanga Pākeha nei ngā wakaaro, the responsibility a te wahine, me mahi te mahi tā te tāne, me kaua e tangi e rā kōrero katoa. Hoi anō ki te wakaaro ake au ki te tehi tikanga I ki te ai au nōku e tamariki ana, ka mutu kei te ngoi kore haere ko te tikanga o te wareware iau te kupu o te kirimate. Te kirimate. Mate ana te tangata, ne haere tika ko taku kuia tonu tērā, taku nana darling me taku neni Vicky. Mate ana te tangata, aha kua pēwea nei te matara o te wanaungatanga might be uncle's new wife. Ko tika atu te haere o aku kuia ki te taha o tērā tūpāpaku. Ka noho ki reira, ka haere ki te ware tūpāpaku, ka haere ki te wāhi waka tika I te tūpāpaku, tae noa ki te pā, tae noa ki te urupā, tērā tikanga o te kirimate. Kei te mōhio ai mo tōku reanga nei, e hara I te mea, he mea normal, tēnei mea te noho me te tūpāpaku. You know, o tāua kuia, ka māma noiho noho ki reira, purei ki runga I o rātou waia, anō nei kei te ora mai te tūpāpaku, e te hiwa, I roto I te waka, ko kōrero ki te tūpāpaku. But yeah, koina te tehi tikanga, I kaha kitea, no koe tamariki ana, e rangi e ngoi kore haere ana.
He rawe, e mihi ana ki ngā wakaaro katoa. So it's awesome to see, and the response that Te Akau gave is awesome, and that's the direction that we want all of our marae, our papakainga to go into, whereby it can be seasonal, but it doesn't necessarily become extinct. So he mihi ana ki era o ngā kōrero, I naia nei ko te wāhanga e kia nei. Taranaki mā tauranga, Hinenui is going to lead us in this one. How do we attain, first and foremost, how do we attain it, but how do we attain and then share mātauranga Māori specific to us, specific to our takiwā, in a digital and socially restricted world. For example, mātou toko toru. So, kia mohi o mai tātou, rere, Tama Ale, ahau, we're all in Wellington. And so this is very applicable to us, whereby petrol prices are going stupid. Mummy and Papa, kare rātou, e tukuna rau, e tukuna nei he pūtea mōku, kia waka ki ngai taku waka, kia oki atu ki te kāinga. So, how am I going to access this kind of mātauranga that is very much alive and well back home, but ia mātou e noho tawiti ana i te kāinga? How do we get to see that kind of knowledge from home without going home? And I know that all our pāake are very much, you want the kōrero o ki mai ki te kāinga, kōrero mai ki au. Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Koko, but when those traffic lights turn colours, I can't come home. Well, I sort of can, but you know, ko ngā raruraruhanga me ngā pēitanga o rotoki o era te kowhiori me ki. So how do we attain and then share mātauranga Māori that's specific to us in a digital, because it's very much a digital world, but we're also socially restricted in some spaces. Nō reira me pēhia mātou e koki I tēnā Hinenui.
Yeah, wow. That's a hard question. And I just think of the mahi that Te Wanaunga D. O'Carroll Shasha has done just on the concept of kanohi ki te kanohi. I think that's what her PhD was on. And how can you, you know, is this kanohi ki te kanohi? It's not, but is it? Are we fully present? And I know it's hard because this way of life is normalized for us, but for some whānau, it's not. So how can you trust something that you're not familiar with and that isn't normalized? So I think it's ata haere. I think it's having respect for the way in which our pāake, our kaumatua revered knowledge and kept it and held it and transmitted it. So it's not to just go, oh, but we want it and we need it. It's like ata haere. You know, you get mātauranga in the sense, in the way that you not deserve it, but you can receive it. So yeah, wānanga like this, in which we can, this is mātauranga Māori, and I think the important thing to realize is that mātauranga isn't just traditional knowledge. Mātauranga is everything that we produce as Māori. You know, we're actively producing mātauranga now. We're actively wānanga in wānanga. So this is a starting point in terms of wakapapa and kōrero a iwi a hapu. That's something for tērā iwi, tērā hapu, tērā wānau, me wānanga. And I think there's ways we can do it safely. We've got to trust ourselves. But ata haere, ata wānanga, and test the waters and see how you go. You got to test it. Our tupuna weren't afraid to leave Hawaii. They weren't afraid to go beyond. They weren't afraid to look beyond what was current. You know, they had to find different ways of doing things, and they were actually extremely innovative. So we need to take those Maui genes, we need to take those Hawaii genes, and we need to put them into practice. So I think because of colonization, we've become a bit reserved. Because good reason, eh? We've lost so much, we don't want to lose more. But we've got to test the waters. We've got to start getting on the waka, doing a little paddle, get your ankles wet, do what you need to do. So yeah, koia taku.
Rawe. So, and rawe ki te rongo I ngā kōrero mai I te kāinga. Nō reira mai te pane o te ika rere, he aha tau nā tirohanga wakaaro anō hoki mo tēnā o ngā pātai.
Me pe whai ai I taua kōrero rā, Hinenui. Ka pai, pull on those Maui genes. I think Gene, by the way, if it's in ngā whanaunga. I think it's an important question to ask ourselves. Well, I might ask myself a lot of the time is, am I wanting to know something for the purpose of knowing because I'm used to being in Pākehā institutions? Well, right now I'm at Victoria University. E rā momo. And so the idea of knowledge is you know, it's this reciprocal process. It's the relationships. You know, that's who we are, right? It's not just, oh, I know a thing, I've been told a thing, and now I know that thing, that is my thing to share. That's not really how it is. So I think the first question is always like, what is the point of sharing some of this kōrero. And these are some of the kōrero that I go through at mahi, and that we're going through at the moment with the hapu. I think getting the toes wet, I like that idea. That's beautiful. Getting your toes wet, giving it a go. But I think having people that are proficient in these kind of spaces, so working in tech, working in communications, working in marketing, working in all different kind of spaces, who are able to communicate with our taueke, he hara e nei mea. He hara e nei mea. He ati ngā tikanga o e nei mea. Mena ka tuku atu tō wakapapa ki tēnei mea, tēnei rorohiko, kei hea tērā rorohiko. Kei hea te kapua e kōrero tia nei. Kei hea e nei kapua. You know, e noho ana e rā mea I ahi treiria, he pai tērā, you know, is there a server living overseas? Is that okay? And it could be, sweet as. Maybe we want to see a physical thing that we want to hold and touch. So I think when it comes to what is going on, I think it's just being really clear with people, really clear, particularly with our taueke. How tēnei mea. You know, what can it do, what can't it do? If it breaks, what happens? You know, those things that, as you said, is bringing our wānau in and helping them understand these things. Koina tāku.
Tēnā koe rere. Te Akau, same part-time, but we're going to spin it a little bit, in that when attaining this kōrero, mātauranga, ahatua harane, what is the appropriate way to attain it? Do I come and knock on your door and say, Te Akau, hey, what did Papa Teru say to you? But you know, what is the proper process in which we attain mātauranga? Ki o tirohanga.
I was spending like the last 5 minutes trying to answer the other question. But kei te pai, I've got an answer anyway for this one. But definitely. You've got to call upon your taueke, your kuia, your paake, and even just those who have kind of been down that huarahi that you know of, that have been down that huarahi before, and ask those questions. It's a little bit of a door knocking thing. I think when we're really getting down into like what are the real hohonu kōrero information that we really want to know, I think it is kanohi ki te kanohi. You do need to go and knock on Nanny's door and say, kia ora Nanny, I've brought some kinas and I've brought some powers, and you know, I'll put the jug on, that sort of thing. And have a conversation, because those types of kanohi ki te kanohi, transfer of knowledge is actually being lost in that traditional sense. And I think because we are trying to find and move with the times, you know, it's pēnei, I runga I ngā rorohiko, I runga I tō waia, kei te kōrero koe ki tētahi atu ki tērā taha o te ao, ana kei te kimi mātauranga koe, ki te whai mātauranga. Hei aki I tō ake whānau me era mātauranga. So I think, you know, to be able to attain that knowledge, for myself anyway, I'd been knocking on auntie's door, kui's door, koro's door, and I'd have that conversation. I'd have a cup of tea. But like platforms like this are awesome, because for those that are not there at the kāinga, not there at the marae, aren't able to be there, they can still connect, and they can kind of, get their toes wet, feel the waters, and see whether it's, you know, oh, this is the time I'm going to jump in this time. You know, I'm a bit warmed up now, I'm ready to go. And at other times, you know, maybe the person's not so sure, but to have it available, I think, is a good idea through platforms like this. It may not be the only way, but it's definitely a good way, because let's face it, everyone's using, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Zoom now. It's becoming a commonplace for huia wānanga to be happening. So platforms like this are great. People can get a bit of a connection that way. And then I think to really dive a lot deeper, you really need to go and kanohi ki te kanohi. Maybe jump into a whare wānanga somewhere and join a class, and you might be able to get a little bit more out of it that way too. But I think if you really want to get into attaining that knowledge, I think it should be done in, if what we're talking about is, you know, ngā karakia, ngā waiata tawhito and ngā whakapapa and all of that, then I think it should be done in a manner of traditional it means. So I guess it was, sitting with our paaki and I guess too, even though you want to go and look for it and you will ask for it, sometimes it won't be given. So that's another part. So, like, I guess our hōtaka here, ngā rangatira o Te Apōpō, I think if you're seen as one of those rangatira o Te Apōpō, sometimes you don't even have to go and look for it. It'll just come to you. So, you often get auntie or koro or koe, and you might be sitting up on the pai and they'll, give you some kōrero and you're like, oh, awesome, I could have spent 2 years at a whare wānanga just to find that out. So, yeah, anyway, I've been talking long enough. Kia ora tātou.
He rawe tērā. And what I really liked, and I think some of our viewers, listeners might miss too, is because you skim past it, because obviously it's a practice of yours that you do so well that it's not a big deal to you, but actually it's a process that a lot of our people do forget to do. And I know it was only a little thing, you skim past it, but you said, knock on the door. That wasn't the process. And you take something. Because you let's not lie, you're there because you want something. Yes, you want something, you want to get this kōrero. And that practice of giving, kia tuku atu kia wāngai anōra ki ngā kaumātua, ki ngā paake, that I can honestly say that's a practice that's not as strong anymore. So that's another thing that fits in that tikanga wāhanga that we're talking about, whereby a lot of people, nā runga i te wai mātauranga, ki te wai tohu rāna i roto i ngā ware wānanga, they know, right, Nanny blah, blah, blah's got the answer. I'm just going to go see Nanny blah, blah. Actually, Nan, I've got 5 minutes. Can you just quickly tell me what's that? Because I've got to go do a TikTok outside. Ka pai shot, Nan. And amongst all of that, Nan, because she's your Nan, she gave you that kōrero, but she's also been craving kina for the last 7 years. And so, e rā huatanga, kei te āhuanga roa haere, but just, kia rongo mai koutou, always do that, ko te taha manaki, ko te taha Māori tērā. And so still with that same pātai Tama Ale, how do we attain that mātauranga? How have you attained particular mātauranga that you have gained i roto i tōranga?
Ka pai tō tini te pātai te mea ko wakautua katoatia te rāti pātai nei rangatira oku. Hoi anō, kei tērā wānau o na tangata ne, ngā tangata mōhio, me taku wai maria, i au e te hi tangata mōhio, hei haere au ki e rā tangata a koai, wakarongo ai. Hoi anō, kau te mātāmua ki te taho taku kuia, ngā ria hine, ngā titu, tītahi, nā reira he mea kapu au e ia, ka haria ki ngā hui. Ki ngā hui maha o te iwi, ki ngā tangihanga, ki ngā huritau. Ka ata ki te mai au e rā tauheke o te kāinga, ka tahi ka ata wāngai mai e te hi kōrero. Me taku rata hoki. Koe no ai, mā te pinono, really. Koe nā tāku.
Kāre he take mo te pinono. He tonga tuku hiho te pinono i a mātou e tamariki atu. Tamariki ana tainoki no ai nei rangi. Ai te pera anō hoki ngā mātua i e te hiwa, is all goods. Engari, he tikanga anō hoki te pinono. Aha kua, a lot of people, you see that kupu, colonisation, but they see that kupu and it's automatically negative. Look at that pinono, look at that pinono. Actually, ka ratau. Just like Tama Ale said, kei te ratau ki tēnā kōrero, so koera te take ka pinono, me te mea nei, kei te hia kai. So, yeah, mohio mai tātou, there's a lot of our kupu, which I'm sure Tama Ale would agree with, Rere as well, Te Akau, Hinenui will agree that there's a lot of our kupu that too often there's a Western lens thrown on it, which then, without mincing words, destroys its actual true intent. So, yeah, kia mohio mai ai tātou, e hara te kupu pinono, me te mahi pinono, i te mahi he, i te hiwa. Heoi anō rā, ka huri nei te waka, and I do want to hear wakautu from everyone here, and I see it's sort of been a direction that some of the answers have gone in, but it's a very honest question. Kua he uri o Wārua hine. He uri anō hoki o ngā raurua Ngātiro Anui tēnei, me te honrea o Ngātiro Anui, kia karangahia ki ngā iwi e warua, e wetu, o te maunga, kia waka eke, kia waka ope tia mai nei ki roto i a Ngātiro Anui mo te Taranaki tūmai. Engari, ko te pātai, Taranaki tūmai, Taranaki Zoom mai ke. I roto I tēnei au. Yeah, and hey, remember, I know there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. But what I do want is your reasoning behind your answers as well. Kia mohio mai rātou, I kia o te runanga nui o Ngā Tiranui, rātou e wakarongo mai nei, so then they know, actually, this is what our people are saying, and this is what they feel. Koe rā, Taranaki tū mai, Taranaki Zoom mai ke. He aha I'm going to go with my tuahine right there, because I know she's going to have some kiko to her answer. Tēnā koe, Hinenui.
I'm just being so straight up saying no, because so that we just don't do it. Don't put us on Zoom for 3 days for the love of all things good and right in this world. We're already fatigued as it is. This is awesome. And now with the bros, having a wānanga, love it. I'll even give up my Friday night drinks and I'll come and have a wānanga here. I'm down. 3 days or even 2 days, all day long on a Zoom. Kao, kei te here. No, thank you. Tūmai is for in person. It's for us to see people we haven't seen in a long time, to reconnect, to see the beautiful faces. I know it's going to be a dilemma. Matatini, that's a whole nother thing. Let's not even go there. We already got hurt feelings. Okay, it's very present. It's very real. We're not going to talk about that. But this, no, this is the wānanga a iwi. Tai hoa kia taia, kia tūtuki te mai. That's me. I don't want to go to a Zoom fest. Oh no, gosh, hell no. Kao.
He rawe, te rawa hau tū. And it's good because you're giving that perspective, the reality. Hey, that's the reality. I'm not saying, I'm just repeating. I'm not going to sit here and enjoy. Well, for me personally, I'm not going to enjoy the levels of tau as much as I would tinana, ia hau e mataki ana, because he momo wairua, there's still a wairua aspect to the etiwara me te kaupapa e kia nei. Nō reira, te Akau.
Actually, I would say, if we're going to do anything, do the tautohe online. That'll be funny. You can do that. I'll watch that. But everything else, no.
Tēnā koe Hinenui. Ana kia koe te Akau, I hātau nā kōrero mo tēnā. Tū mai, Zoom mai.
Ka, ori te aku whakaaro ki tā Hinenui. Me kanohi ki te kanohi. Tinana nei, I runga I te atāmira, kei reira koe rongo ai ki te ihi, ki te wehi, o te hunga e tū mai ana, e haka mai ana, anō nei mo te hunga e mahi ana I ngā kēmu hoki. So, you know, there's always a lot of activity going on at these kaupapa, and yeah, no, it's just not the same, to be honest. Yeah, it's a call from me. Nā, ātinana, yeah, kanohi ki te kanohi. Koe na taku whakaaro.
Tēnā koe te Akau. Tama Ale, e kōrero au. Tū mai, Zoom mai.
Nau, kaore aku kōrero āpiti, e tautoko ana. Kaore he take o te tū mai. Ka maro ke ana I te Zoom, e rangi e tautoko hoki ana I te kōrero mo te tautohe. Ka rau e tēnā, ngā iwi te kaumārua, ngā iwi e waru rāne, pakanga ki runga ki te Zoom, live ki te iwi, ki runga ki te pukamata. Koina pēr te ara, hoe no ie. Karekai.
Rere, kei te kite koe I te tai, e rere ana, e rere pē nui ona. Nō reira, e aha tauna, tirohanga ki tēnā.
E rere noa tēnei manu ki te taha kāo. Me pēhea tātou e rongo ai, e kite ai, I te tima toa ka pahaka nei a ngā rua Irerangi. Me nā kāre koutou e tai atu a kanohi a tinana nei. Koia tāku.
Tēnā koutou, no reira, tēnā pēr kei te wakarongo mai nei te hiamana, te poari hoki o te runanga o Ngā Tiranui ki tēnā o ngā wakautu. Zoom just don't even look like an option. ka pai. But pai rawa ki mo te taha o te tautohe so re rawe te rongo i era kōrero. I tēnei wā ka tika ko tērā kaupapa ko te Taranaki Tūmai. Tūmai is a festival whereby we get to embrace the people. And ka tika ko te wāhanga e vai ake nei, ko Taranaki tangata. So we're going to go into our last wāhanga i te iwi. Kia kōrero ake e nei rangatira o Te Apōpō mo e te i, mo te reanga noroto hoki o tātou o Taranaki, ko te reanga tuatahi ko te pepe, ko te pātai tēnei mo Hinenui. What can an event like Taranaki Tūmai do to better accommodate our pepe? So for instance,
accommodate the mama. Accommodate the mama, wait on them, give them cups of tea, give them kai, look after them, make sure we can all babysit, we can all take the babies, make sure that mama's, whangai i rātu mea. Ngāri, manakitia te wānau. Koira te mea tuatahi, manaki ngā pāke, manakitia te wānau. Make a little VIP suite. Oh my gosh, yes, let's do this whānau. VIP for the mama, not the breastfeeding room. No, VIP. Yeah. Done.
Or, not trying to be funny, so we don't want it the breastfeeding room. So pai ake te VIB, Meki, very important breastfeeder.
I just think the realities of having a young whānau in which I have, I've taken my boy since he was a baby to Tūmai. It's hard. There's a lot of people, they get lost. So to manaki our pepe, definitely. But what do pepe need? They need mama, they need papa, they need kui, they need koro. So manaki tia te wana katoa. And that's Tūmai does that, but it's just really thinking about, can you get a pram in here? Is there seating? Ira atu mea, when you have a pepe, is there places where you can heat up a bottle? Just little things like that. And checking in, being helpful, being supportive. Do you need a hand getting your pram out of the car? Ira atu mea. Manaki tia te tangata, manaki tia te wānu. All right. And the cool thing about all of this is I feel like my baby's been going, so my baby's 12 now. He's not a baby, but he's been going since he was a baby, and he remembers it all. So it's accumulative. He's like, so there in wānanga even, that for karo osmosis, just being present helps you take it all in. So yeah, manaki tia te wānau, manaki tia te waine te mama, ka tutuki pai te kaupapa.
Tēnā koe mo tēnā o ngā whakautu. Te Akau, mo te taha o Taranaki tamariki. Oh, real. Should tamariki be allowed to walk in and out of the Wharenui during the Waikōrero? Why?
Okay, I'll say Kau. And the reason being is i te wātipu mai ana hau ki raro i raro i te parerau o taku pāpā. Ko ia te mea kaha rawa te tohu ki ngā mātua tēnā tikina tō tamaiti whakangu. Koira ana kōrero. So he was pretty hard out and hearty about that sort of stuff. And but that's a bit of what I knew as I grew up. And today we've become a little bit more relaxed. And obviously I think on the side of how, I don't know, but sometimes I get the feeling that with the no smacking law that came around, it may have had an influence on that now, where I see a more than often tamariki running in and out. But for me, it's a simple kahore. There is a time and place during certain kaupapa that can be accepted, but when you're definitely talking about tētahi mea hohonu rawa, ina ko tētahi tangihanga, tētahi kaupapa nui rawa, he tapu taua kaupapa, he tapu taua hui, yeah, definitely not. And if you can, and we already know that anyway, but sometimes some of our whanaunga that haven't really been raised around the marae environment or in that environment or under those sort of teachings or understandings, sometimes they do get it the rough way and the raw way, and Nanny will go over there and say, tikina tō tamaiti, haria ki waho, I've seen that at a tangihanga before. I don't think it's appropriate at certain times, but sometimes, kei te pai. Mehe mea ko tētahi ngā hau, mehe mea ko tētahi mea kāre te tino hohonu, then, kei te pai. But, it's a bit of a balancing act.
pai tēnā kōrero, pai tēnā whakaaro oki. Kia koe Rerenoarangi mō te unga rangatahi. How and what does an iwi need to do to genuinely invest in their rangatahi? And so I know this part I derive from our iwi, most, but I haven't seen statements, but still most iwi, we got putia. A lot of our iwi have made some fantastic and smart investments for the benefit of the next generation. It's not necessarily something that we may reap the rewards for, but our tamariki mokopuna most certainly will. How do those entities then, outside of scholarships, even though scholarships and grants are amazing, tēnā koutou e ngā iwi, what else can iwi do to genuinely invest in their rangatahi? What do rangatahi need to see whereby they're like, oh, not only is that my whakapapa, but I actually see that they're proud of this uri. So ia ngā momo wakaautu me ki mō tēnā o ngā pātai.
O maybe ka tika ki te koro wai. No reira, nā te mea ra, i kaha poi tō mātou, tō tātou nei runanga, kia whakatū, kia tautoko ake i ngā mea pēnā ia puawai, e hea nei ki te tiki, ki te pātai atu, hea hia o ngā rangatahi, nai nei mō te apōpō. And so, that we came together, had wānanga, had some of those discussions, and the koro wai o ngā rua ine came back and said how can we support this, and one of those things was to support the strategy that came together from Te Ukaipo, as well as to bring in a new role at Te Runanga, and that's Kasi Rangiuna. So I think those are really awesome ways to do that, and we will hopefully see the benefit of that in the next few years, of how to implement things that we want to do as rangatahi, or I guess I'm starting to move away from the rangatahi age soon. And what are the things that our rangatahi want to do? Go and ask them, have wānanga, do something fun, come together. What do you guys want? What do you guys want to see? And a big thing, a lot of the beautiful stuff that came out was hauora, was mental health, was learning who we are, was whakapapa. So there were really beautiful and hohonu things that I think everybody wants. It doesn't mean that it's just particular to rangatahi. It's just that our rangatahi want these particular things. And we have as you said, we have the puta, with the resources, and we have the skills, so let's support them. Let's find opportunities for mahi. Let's find opportunities for them to sit with taueke. Let's find opportunities for them to go to hui, because the want is there. You just, I think there's that term, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, I think yes, that's true. However, but you've got to, put your hand in the water and make sure that water's okay. It's like when you've got a dog. Anei tō wai, anei. You can lead the horse to the water, but you've got to let them know that it's okay to drink, and they can come anytime. So give them opportunities. Open those spaces up so they're safe for rangatahi to be in. So that's hui, wānanga. There's not a lot of spaces. Well, there are some spaces that are not so safe for rangatahi to be in, because ka tūtitihi rangatahi, ka patua ki te kōrero noho maira, and that's okay. But I think just opening up opportunities it's not okay, but opening up opportunities for rangatahi to come in and join in and ask questions in a safe space. Maha ngā mea, heoi, resource, support them, find mahi, and koia, kia ora.
Tēnā koe rere, kia koe Tama Ale mo te taha o te rangatakapu, mō ngā pai o te maunga, mō ngā marae, puta noa i tō tātou nei takiwā. Ko te reo o te kaumātua, o te paake kei te mate aere, I runga i ngā pai. Ko te reo o te unga rangatai o te unga taioi, e pakari aere ana. Engari ko te reo o te rangatakapu, rua noa iho, no reira, what would an iwi need, or a marae need to do to bring its people back, particularly of that reanga, of the rangatakapu, to bring their people back for kaupapa outside of tangihanga? So an example you gave was with your kuia, that was a fantastic example whereby ahakoa te kaupapa kei reira ia mai te timatanga ki te wakamutunga, but are there sort of rautaki that marae hapu can do whereby we can not necessarily entice our people back to the marae or onto the pai and doing particular duties or responsibilities, but whereby it's just like Reren said, it's safe enough. What does a safe space look like for our people, for that reanga anyway, to be able to take up their rightful places I runga i ngā marae maa?
He anō te pātai wanaunga.
So what does a marae or an iwi need to do to bring te ranga takapu back to the marae? Ki runga i ngā pai, ki anoho mai ki runga i ngā pai o te marae, o ngā marae putano i te takipa.
Ka pai. Well, kia korero au mo te reo, mo te ora o te reo. Kaore au I te tangata, waka kiki noa I te pai kia ki noiho, ki te tangata noiho. Kaore au na pūkenga ki te kōrero, ki te wakapapa, ki te karakia e rā mea katoa. Nei e kōrero ana tātou mo tērā taha, mo te waka ki te pai, me te pupuru tonu ki te kounga o te kōrero. Me huri ki ngā kōrero mo te waka rauora I te reo. Te ranga takapū, kei te ara tika te ranga takapū. I te mea kia tiro au ki taku tauheke, ki te taha o taku tauheke. E rā tauheke oku ka ki mai ki au. Maumau taumato reo Māori, that's not going to get you anywhere. E rangi, te reanga o raro iho mai o tēnā reanga, e āki ke ana I tō tāua reanga, ki te ako I te reo, ki te aru I te reo. Kia hoki au ki te kōrero a rangihau, no roto o ngai tūhoe. Me rima rawa ngā waka tipuranga e ora ai te reo I roto I tērā wānau. Ka mutu I a waka tipuranga me pai ke atu tōna reo I te reo o te waka tipuranga o mua atu I aia. Nā reira, kā rima waka tipuranga, mā reira kā ki kua ora te reo. So mōku ake nei, me pērā, me haere tonu te ranga takapū ki te mahi, ki te wāngai I te hiahia, ki te rangatahi, ki te ranga hauraro, ki te aru I te reo, ki te ako I te reo. Hoi no, kei reira tonu tērā hunga o te ranga takapū e ngā kaunui ana ki te reo. Ka tahi nōnei ka ako ki te reo. Me te pai hoki o tērā, mā te haere ki ngā ware wānanga. Ka mutu, kaore he utu o e nei wānanga I e nei rā. Kua kore he takunga e kore ai koe e a koe te reo. Koina koina pēo ku wakaro ki taua pātai wanaunga.
Tēnā oki koe Tama Ale, nā ka tai mātou ki te waanga wakamutunga mo tēnei taha o te Taranaki, o Taranaki tangata, ki a koe Hinenui. And I feel like it's probably going to be very similar to your first answer for our Pepe Heoi, ko te pātai mo te paake. Our nannies and kokos should not be eating lollies and wearing their slippers in the Wharenui. Ai, kau rānei, hea haai.
You do want to start a fight, don't you? I mean, Kau, kare tika ki te kai ki roto I te wharenui, kare he aha. It's just tikanga, he tipuna, kei roto, he tipuna. So yeah, there's some things that just, we take a hard line on that. But aroha ki te tangata, respect for our elders. So you ask uncle to do it now. You ask someone else to broach that kaupapa. You get the favourite, who does auntie like? And you, that is a hard one. I thought you were going to just say, how do we manaki our pāke or something? Give me something easy. I'm not taking lollies off the kuia. Come on now. I thought that you were going to go on to, our role of our kaumata kuia. And what I was actually, and we've been having wānanga about this and just with my mates and stuff. And just to go on a tangent, I don't know how, I can't think of the kupu Māori, but, something real prolific within Te Ao Māori is this concept of succession planning. And of seeing a young person within our hapu iwi wānau and saying, oh, that one's a orator, or that one's got reo karanga, or that one, she can do this, or they can do that. And pointing out that one and manaki, tira pipi, tira tai tamariki, kia taia te noho ki rangi te pai, kia taia te karanga. And having that strategy around, every whānau has a kai karanga, a kai kōrero, a ringa wera, you know, do those 2 momo āhuatanga o te marae. And it might be alive in certain wānau, but I don't think it's as alive as it should be, you know. This concept of the marae is a living thing. So just how we get better at passing down our leadership roles rather than it just kind of staying in the realm of these are our leaders on our boards. You know, we see leaders as the people at the top of the food chain. I don't know how to say that. That's not how I meant it. You know what I mean, eh? It's not like that. But we're all leaders. I'm a leader of my baby. I'm his mama, but I'm his leader. Tiako's and Jess are the leaders in their wānau, you know? We all got our roles. We need to stop this thinking that we're not leaders in the Western sense. So how can we start to, you know, to manaki our pākehā, but also pass down that mātauranga, those stories, so that we can be better for our next generation? How can we how can we bring back that tītautanga? You know, that kid's good at that kid's good at that. We don't do that. I want someone to tell me that I'll be a really good kaikaranga. Now, I'm waiting. Now. But you know that concept of like manaki ngā pukenga o te tangata, tell them, and we do it, but I don't see it as living. I don't. You guys might, as living as it used to be. That, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Te tapātai for Tama Ale Rerenoarangi and Te Akau. Me timataki ki a koe rere.
Ka hano rā te pātai?
You know, how do we start to nurture our tamariki, our mokopuna in ourselves in terms of succession planning? So how do we start to bring up the pukenga in our tamariki? Even like for our paaki to bring up the pukenga, it's just not something that I see, that shoulder tap, that you're good at this, follow me, whai ahau, I'll teach you, I'll mentor you. I don't know. Am I making sense?
Aua, kei te karo au I tēnei pātai. Ka tukua te rāka ki a koe te Akau, tēnā koe.
Oh, te a koe, he rere, tukuna mai tēnei wahanga. Ai, he pātai pai tēnei pātai. Me o nā ahuatanga katoa, you know, it's obviously something that we've always got to end up doing, eh? And I've had this discussion many times with my own whānau, and at the marae, and with other whānau in their marae, just being privy to being there at the time of this topic of discussion. And I think I take a little bit from what I said earlier. It's about normalizing it, and it's about creating that environment, because for a long time the environment that was created for that reanga was one that wasn't really too inviting for that generation and that reanga. So to normalize it, I think is a factor, is one part to consider, and definitely what you were saying, Hinenui, about shoulder tapping. I think that's really important. I've seen that happen before. I've had that happen a couple of times from a few kui and karaua. And it's awesome, but at the same time, you know, are you ready? Because there's definitely a level of responsibility that comes with it. It's not just about being there and, you know, put the costume on for that kaupapa and then you get to take it off. I think what we're talking about is a live and breathe thing here, right? So I'll share an experience that I had with my papa, and this is how it happened for me. So him and I, we would do our ordinary pa life, you know, country rural life, and we'd go out into the taiao, and we would go and collect wātakirihi, and in those times he'd be reciting karakia and waiata, and that happened from a very young age. Another day we might be out fixing fences for our kararehe, and at the same time he'd be talking about whakapapa. And I think when you do understand that maybe this tamaiti has what it takes, or you could shape them in a certain area, because I think we touched on it before, you know, there's someone in our whānau that can do the kōrero, karanga, the cook, and then there's someone else who can do the whakapapa. You know, not always is it the person on the pai that has the whakapapa, sometimes it's someone else. But yeah, I think when you see within your whānau that this person can carry that part, and it's a little bit like the Power Rangers, you know, with our Captain Planet, you know, and all those elements with your powers combined. If you have those people in your whānau, yeah, so in my whānau, I'm the speaker, and I have kaikaranga. My sister, she does our kaikaranga, mama, unless she gets one of my tuahine to do it. Then we've got cooks and people who like organising and bossing people around, because you need those bossy people too. But yeah, went on for a little bit there, but I think just to kind of put out there anyway for that, Rianga, it's really important, just maybe a bit of encouraging, providing a safe environment, and a inviting environment, because our culture is awesome, becoming more and more accepted now, and I think you know, let's take that waka and just put it out to the world, which it already is, and yeah, I think those are just ways that we can do that. So yeah, that's my kōrero to your pātai.
Tēnā koe te Akau, no, he rawe katoa me te mea nei, mo tēnei kōrero e kia nei ko te succession, e kia nei, kei te ora rawa ngā āhuatanga kia waka rite ai tēnā huatanga me kia nei ko te succession. E waka utu tau, Tama Ale? O he kōrero anō tau e hāngai ana, e hono ana ki tēnā o ngā kōrero Hinenui? Tēnā koe. I ki te au, ahakoa, you know, e una ana i roto i te pō, i ki te au ia i tāna mahi āringa. Nō reira, e mihi ana ki a koe, tingane. E mihi ana ora ki a koutou katoa, kua tai te wā, kia wakakapi ake i tēnei o ngā hōtaka mo te pōnei, engari ko te pātai wakamutunga o mona katika, me mihi kau atu ana ki e nei rangatira o Te Apōpō e te iwi me te mea nei, he maringa nui, just like the sis said, it's a Friday night, people do have priorities, and ka mihi ki a koutou toko whā, because I know you rearranged priorities. Tama Ale rearranged his sitting situation where he would be able to kōrero ngātahi me tātou without the hoi going on in the background. Kei te ware wānanga tonu, rere e mahi ana e kau mai nei a te Akau mai te pito o te ao e ki ana ki pariaka. Nō reira e mihi kau atu ana ki a koutou toko whā. E tuku nei te aroha ki a koutou nā te korimako o Taranaki, me te mea nei nā mātou te honore nui. Nō reira e mihi kau atu ana ki a koutou, ko te pātau wakamutunga, ki a koutou toko whā, easy as, whose banner are you following at Taranaki Tūmai? Very easy. It's a very easy pātai e te iwi. Nō reira ka timata ki kia koe Hinenui in 2022. Whose gears are we going to see you sporting?
Stay in my orange, stay in my Taranaki iwi lane, Taranaki tūturu. But I do try to like jump for hakinakina to Te Atiawa, but I don't play, I just spectate. And then I change my t-shirt. Ka pai.
Tēnā koe tuahine. Te Akau?
That would be, the correct answer is Taranaki tūturu.
Tēnā koe te Akau. Anā, Rerenoarangi.
Well, kare noa kia tātu ki titihi Taranaki tūmai. Heoi. I know, koia. Heoi, anei titihi pononga a ngā rua inerangi. Nō reira, koia ke te wakaututika. Tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe rere. Ana ki a koe Tama Ale, kei te mau koe i te hea pini i a Taranaki tūmai e ke mai nei.
Kei te mau au i tō bini wanaunga. Ai. Nui ki te pāranga ki ngā iwi katoa. Nui, tino tata nei, aku kuia, aku tau eke katoa rātau, he Taranaki nui tonu. E rangi, taku tiha te he ngā ruahine.
kei te mihi kau atu ana ki tēnā o ngā whakautu no reira, kia koutou are taringa mai nei, mātaki mai nei, look out for the orange, look out for Tūturu. If Rere is there, he's probably hitched a ride with me, o tama, kei te pai tēnā, and then obviously I'm losing a beanie kia mohi o mai tātou. Ko au te reo pāho me ki, mo Taranaki tū mai, so karehe hātea, I think, but yeah, I'll do the Hinenui and just do the swap arounds depending on which way the direction of the wakataitai is going. A waka jumper. Heoi anō rei, mihi kau atu ana ki a koutou. Te honore nui nā mātou, no reira ko tāku, e wakamutu ana ki runga i a koutou, kia rangona anō rei i ngā kōrero, a kui maha koroma o tinoa i o wake ue ako. No reira mihi ana, uri rauna ki tō tātou nei piringa, tēnā koutou, rire hau, pai marire.